I'm Patricia Regier from Regier Education. This next segment is an AI-generated conversation created using Google's Notebook LM. But the discussion is based on my original blog article, Don't Hear What I Didn't Say. I will link that article under this podcast. And that article is about inclusion and neurodiversity. I want to share this with you as an example of how AI can extend learning in creative ways while reminding you that the ideas and messages you'll hear come from my own work and perspective.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into something important, moving past just ticking boxes for inclusion. We want to get to the foundations, the absolute bedrock for creating environments, classrooms, teams, meetings, whatever, that are truly thoughtful. Our mission, to uncover 3 sort of powerful principles that can redefine engagement. It all centers around neurodiversity and universal design.
Yeah, and what's really exciting, I think, is shifting the whole conversation towards what we're calling proactive inclusion. It's a big shift, really. Moving away from just accommodating differences, which is often reactive, towards actively supporting engagement, growth, and, crucially, that sense of belonging. We've pulled out this core framework: grace, space, and safe. These are like the 3 pillars for this whole new approach.
Okay, grace, space, and safe. Let's unpack this with a core idea you mentioned that really cuts through a lot of assumptions we make at work or just socially. It's this phrase, don't hear what I didn't say.
Yes. That phrase, it's such a good mental reset, isn't it? Because it makes you stop and notice all those gaps we automatically fill with our own biases, our own social programming.
And those snap judgments, those filled gaps, they can be huge barriers. Think about those everyday moments we get wrong. Someone turns down a hug, maybe, or always skips the after-work drinks. The instant thought is often, oh, they don't like me, or they're not committed to the team. But the research we looked at suggests that's usually hearing something that just wasn't said. They might just need to manage their energy or sensory input. It's often not personal at all.
Exactly. Or think about learning environments. Someone doesn't speak up in a meeting, or they avoid eye contact, or maybe they really dislike small group discussions. The default assumption is often they're not engaged or they haven't grasped the material. But we really need to pause there. That quietness, that preference for nonverbal ways of engaging, it doesn't automatically mean disinterest. Not at all.
Yeah, I had to check myself on this recently. I saw someone typing furiously on their phone during a presentation. My first thought, okay, they're checking email, totally checked out. But then you read this stuff, and it reminds you, for some people, that active movement, like typing fast or doodling or even fidgeting, that's actually how they focus, how they process things deeply. We assume distraction, but they might be completely locked in.
And that's precisely why this framework of grace, space, and safe is so fundamental. It gives us that foundation for a non-judgmental approach. It helps build the kind of environment that actually removes those barriers so people can show up authentically.
Okay, so let's build this house of inclusion then. What are these 3 foundational blocks? Grace, space, safe. Can you break them down for us?
Yeah.
Right. So the synthesis really points to 3 actionable definitions. Let's start with grace. Grace means consciously deciding not to expect or to be what society just assumes is typical, standard behavior, standard performance. It's really about letting go of those automatic assumptions, those expectations we put on people, and honestly, often on ourselves, too.
That sounds really liberating, maybe.
Yeah.
But how does giving grace actually translate to, say, team performance or results, not just feelings?
Well, that's a great question. When you offer grace, you actually reduce this huge hidden burden, the emotional labor people spend trying to mask their differences or conform to norms that just don't work for them. And the research suggests when you free up that energy people were using for masking, it goes right back into their work, into cognitive tasks. It builds trust faster, cuts down on burnout risk, and ultimately you see less turnover, which is expensive. So grace isn't just nice, it's actually efficient.
Okay. Efficiency through grace. I like that. Got it. What's next? Space.
Right, space. This is about providing the room, and that can be literal, physical room or metaphorical room for people to learn and work in ways that genuinely play to their strengths. It means being flexible, maybe with where people sit or when they work or the methods they use. It's about empowering growth by letting people operate in their optimal zone, which, by the way, might look suboptimal to someone else watching.
Right. And the third one, safe. We hear this word a lot, but how is it specifically defined here, especially thinking about neurodiversity?
Good point. Safe environments, in this context, are places where everyone feels accepted, respected, and supported, specifically regarding their differences. This is the absolute key to inviting authentic participation, real learning. Without that feeling of safety, people just default back to masking, to conformity, and you lose all the benefits of that diverse thinking. That strategic advantage just evaporates.
But how do you maintain that safety in like a fast-paced competitive workplace where you need honest feedback, maybe some healthy friction, accountability? Can safety and pressure coexist?
They absolutely can. Safety here isn't about avoiding feedback or difficult conversations. It's about making the environment predictable, transparent. The sources really emphasize clear processes, giving feedback that focuses on the work itself, not the person's character, making sure everyone understands the rules of the game, so to speak. When expectations are explicit, spelled out, not just implied, that sense of safety goes way up, and that's when people feel okay taking the intellectual risks needed for innovation.
Okay, that makes sense. Predictability builds safety. Grace, space, safe. That's the foundation. But to really build on it, we need to understand the why behind it, which brings us squarely to neurodiversity. Who are we actually designing this for?
Exactly, neurodiversity.
Yeah.
It's crucial to understand it's not just a new word for deficits or problems. It simply acknowledges the natural expected variation in how human brains work, how people think, learn, experience the world, engage with others. It's a basic human variation, like being left-handed or right-handed. It just is.
And the sources we looked at mention specific profiles under this umbrella, right? Like people who are autistic, have ADHD, dyslexia, or other sort of unique ways of thinking. And it really stresses framing this positively. Being neurodivergent means thinking differently, and that difference is often a strength.
Absolutely, a strategic strength. The research consistently points to neurodivergent individuals, often excelling in areas like intense focus, seeing patterns others miss, processing details meticulously, and finding really creative, out-of-the-box solutions. So if you box them in, if you force them into communication styles or work processes that drain their energy, you're basically shutting down access to that unique value, that strategic edge.
So let's connect grace, space, and safe directly to some of these specific needs then. Like space seems vital for profiles like ADHD or maybe dyslexia.
Oh, definitely. For ADHD, for example, the ability to move, maybe use fidget tools or listen while walking around that literal space could be the very thing that unlocks their focus or that innovative thinking. And for some autistic people, that need for a safe environment is often tied directly to managing sensory input. Skipping the noisy team lunch isn't an antisocial statement. It's often just a practical decision to avoid sensory overload, the noise, the smells, the visual clutter.
And the key mindset shift here seems to be you don't actually need someone to disclose a diagnosis or give you an explanation for these things. The environment should already have the grace built into it to handle these variations as normal.
That's it, precisely. People shouldn't have to explain or justify their needs for you to be considerate. The approach should always start with kindness, flexibility, curiosity, and empathy. And the strategic payoff is simple. Create an environment that minimizes unnecessary hurdles, like sensory overload, and allows flexible ways to engage. You get access to the full spectrum of talent and thinking.
Okay, so if grace is the mindset, what about the practical design? The how-to? That leads us to Universal Design for Learning, UDL. What are the blueprints for building that safe space?
Right, UDL is basically the architectural plan for inclusion by design. It's about thinking ahead, anticipating needs before anyone has to ask for an accommodation. It means considering all kinds of minds, including neurodivergent ones, right from the start of any design process, whether it's a training program, a document, a meeting structure. The core idea in UDL is providing multiple means of representation, engagement, and action and expression. Multiple pathways.
Multiple pathways. That feels key. It's not just one size fits all with some adjustments. So what are some concrete technical things we need to do? Inclusion by default.
Okay, some real basics. Make your slides, your documents, your videos accessible from the get-go. Avoid flashing or blinking animations. They aren't just annoying. For some people, they can be really disruptive, even physically uncomfortable or harmful. Always, always include closed captions and transcripts for audio and video. And on the technical side, make sure everything works with the keyboard alone and that screen readers can navigate it properly. These aren't just niche accessibility tweaks. They directly support the UDL principle of multiple means of representation, making sure everyone can actually access and understand the information.
And what about running meetings or learning sessions? How do we build in that proactive space and keep people engaged, hitting those other UDL pillars?
Okay, critically important. Build in time for reflection, pauses, time to process. Sources really stress this for deep thinkers or people with different processing speeds. You need that quiet time to consolidate learning. Offer flexibility, different ways for people to choose how they participate. Not everyone thrives speaking up in a big group.
Right, and you mentioned something specific about noise during quiet time.
Yes, super important detail. Don't automatically play music during reflection or individual work time. Some people find it helps focus, sure. But for others, it's just more auditory clutter, a huge sensory distraction that actually prevents concentration. It destroys the space they need. And, of course, use inclusive language everywhere, in examples, in content. Make sure the materials themselves reflect diverse experiences.
So the whole mindset is proactive, designed for the range of human variation from the start, not just for some imaginary average person. Hit all 3 UDL principles.
It's the essence of it. Inclusion by design, not by afterthought.
Okay, this is great, but it can still feel a bit big, maybe overwhelming. Let's bring it down to earth. The sources also get some really simple everyday actions, quick wins, accessible to anyone, that offer grace and space almost immediately. What were some of those for reducing cognitive load?
Yeah, lots of small, powerful things. It's often about choice and clarity. First, chunk information. Break down complex stuff into smaller, digestible pieces. Keep layouts clean, uncluttered. Less visual noise. Offer visual cues alongside verbal instructions if you can. Little icons, diagrams. Helps different process styles.
And what about participation? That's often a big anxiety point for people.
Absolutely. Offer choice there too. Let people show what they know in different ways. Maybe written, maybe verbal, maybe a quick visual sketch. And crucially, don't make participation in small groups or speaking out loud mandatory for everyone. Explicitly value silent listening, written contributions, nonverbal engagement just as much. And building in that quiet reflection time during live sessions or meetings, that's a simple, immediate way to provide space. Non-negotiable, really.
The sources also mentioned friendly supports, these little gestures that provide anticipatory grace, making people feel supported rather than pressured.
Right, like the art of the gentle reminder. Sending calendar invites or quick prompts or summaries, but framing them clearly as helpful organizational aids, not nagging. Just a reminder, not don't forget. And simple things, like using the built-in accessibility checker in your software before you hit send on a document. Just takes a minute, makes a huge difference in clarity.
And that idea of follow-up for connection.
Yes. A quick encouraging message after a meeting or session, a small check-in. It goes such a long way to affirm someone's contribution, make them feel seen, build that sense of belonging. These are small things, right? Patience, clarity, reminders. But they add up to create that safe, graceful environment.
This has been a really insightful deep dive, moving beyond theory into practical ways to actually embody grace, space, and safe, making inclusion less abstract, more about actionable design and everyday interaction.
It really is. And when you pull it all together, the final takeaway is pretty clear. Creating these environments, ones with grace, space, and safety, it's not just about being nice or compassionate, though it is that too. It's a genuine strategic advantage. It unlocks more creativity, more innovation, a stronger sense of belonging, which leads to better performance.
You're essentially maximizing your entire talent pool by making it easier for everyone to bring their best work.
And like we saw, inclusion often doesn't look like some grand, complicated initiative. Sometimes it's just those small, gentle things. A kind follow-up email. A reminder framed as support, a thoughtful check-in, meeting people where they are. So here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, drawing on that principle of grace. Next time you find yourself reacting to someone's behavior, maybe they're quiet, maybe they avoid eye contact, maybe they're typing furiously on their phone, just pause. Get curious for a second. Challenge yourself to really lean in to that idea we started with. And don't hear what wasn't said. What assumption could you release today, right now, to give someone just a little more grace, and then watch and see what strategic benefits might just unlock from that simple shift.